Hello, everyone, and good morning. Welcome to our live feed update for July 18th. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and with me today is Jacob Jones. How you doing, Jacob?
I am good, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed this morning. You know, it's always a good morning to spend it with you, so I'm doing good today.
Yes, we are here to update you on everything that happened yesterday on the Big Brother 23 live feeds. It was an interesting day. It was day 11 in the house, and we had people were picked for the veto. People played in the veto, and somebody won the veto, and we're gonna have some fun with it, Jacob.
I'm excited for it. I mean, it was I was wondering how today was, especially with the chaos that happened the night before, and you and Liana broke it down chef kiss style. And so I was like, hopefully today, will be like they had that chaotic scene yesterday. Everything was, feeds were lit. Hopefully today would be a little, but we still got some, some juice in it. So I'm excited to talk about it.
Yes. So we spent most of the early portion of the day with just more discussion about this proposed alliance from primarily Tiffany, which is the Kings and the Queens plus Derek X. And Derek X has some reservations about Christian and Alyssa's involvement in this, and he also feels like maybe Hannah is somebody that could get involved, but for the most part, they are still trying to push this forward.
I mean, I think it's beneficial for Tiffany, but I also get Derek X's. Do we call him Derek X or do we just call him Derek?
I've taken to just calling him Derek, but I occasionally will throw the X in there just to remind people.
And X is for Xavier. I just like follow X. So
that's what's really that's what really gets you is that people call Xavier X. I haven't taken to that yet. Not
really.
Until,
you just call him Xavier?
Yeah, I just call him Xavier because until Derek X or Xavier, until one of them leaves, Xavier has to be Xavier. Otherwise, it's too confusing.
Okay, TBA school. When I tweet X, I get confused about who the hell I'm talking about. But I could get how Derek X is cautious with Alyssa and with Christian. I feel like a lot more people need to be cautious with them as well, because as we saw yesterday and throughout the entire day, they were side by side the entire day, and I've never heard a lick of strategy come from Derek X and Christian to Derek X. Oh, Derek X, Christian plus Alyssa to Derek X. So I would obviously be like, hold on, what are we doing? And him and Hannah have a flirtmans, a friendship, little eyeing situation going on. So if he can bring that in, and Hannah has an amazing, I'm not going to say amazing, she has a good read on the lay of the land somewhat with certain people. And so I think she could definitely be useful for them. I just wish she would get more active. And so hopefully this could be her in to be more active in the game. So I'm here for it.
All right. So we did get the veto draw. Alyssa, Claire, and Derek X were chosen to play in the veto. So Derek will be competing once again.
Do you think it's... Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I don't want to reveal the winner as yet. If I'll let you do it. But that's the question.
All right. Well, Frenchie is going to make a pitch to Kyland. Frenchie, he's woken up. He has a new game plan. The game plan is that he's going to go to Kyland and he says, look, I understand why I'm in this position. I get it, but I'm not the real threat here. The bigger threat here is Brent and the jocks, the ones that tricked me into doing all of the things that I did and have now betrayed me and thrown me to the wolves. So what you should do is make sure that veto is used on Brittany. And you should put Brent up here, right up next to me. Brent or Christian, one of those jocks, and we'll take them out, and I'll be a big target and shield in front of you, and I'll be going after the rest of those jocks.
He said that with every gravitas in his body, and he's not all the way wrong with this. So I was like, Frenchie, it is a good pitch, especially with people already kind of thinking Brent's a shady character. But for me, I got it. It's the only logical way to go about this week. If you're Frenchie, Brent needs to be on the block for me to at least have a chance to stay. But for me, I just can't get past the delusion that Frenchie is. Even watching him on feeds, I'm just I remember yesterday, right? I put it on my TV and I was staring at him. And it was like almost like I'm staring at you almost just like this. Like a thoughtful gaze. And I just like, it's just kind of like, I really want to get inside your mind to know all the nicks and crannies about how things get filtered and then how things come out. And it was such a beautiful, but also distraughtful, but also chaotic, all those negative, things that I could associate with it. But to get, the target on Brent is his only play at this point. So it makes sense, but I still just want Frenchie gone. But hey.
Yes. Well, Kyland says to the cameras after Frenchie leaves, like,
I love
like
this.
he doesn't say anything for life. It's just like,
yes. You hear this guy? Yeah.
I mean, it's a smart move, but come on, man.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and I remember in this talk as well, Frenchie was still like going about the thing of like, whatever happens, that Veto was going around Brittany's neck. Whatever happens, like I'm putting that Veto around her neck because I don't want the target on her. And I don't think anyone, I think people in his face bought it, but do you think actually anyone like internally like was like, okay, he's actually going to do this? Or do you think people saw past that and was like, oh, okay, Frenchie is doing what Frenchie does best and, is cracking?
I think that they probably approached it the same way that we did, in that like oh well, that would be funny, or like that, like for them not funny, but like that would be useful because he would leave, but not fully trusting that he would actually do it.
Nah, him saying America is going to think I'm the dumbest person here. If I put, I'm like, I think America already kind of thinks that. But if you even do that, just go along with who we already think Frenchie is. So go for it, I guess.
Yeah, Hayden Plunkett in the chat with a good comment here. I feel like Frenchie says what he thinks people want to hear, but he has very bad reads on what people want to hear, and also does not consider if it contradicts what he said in the past, which is definitely the case. It's what we talked about before. He has no base layer of just truth. It's always filtered to some kind of story, and he definitely changes based on who he's talking to, based on what he thinks they will be receptive to. And I think that's where a lot of this sort of like, you can see where his views or the things that he's been saying have developed by him being somebody who's very active on Twitter and wanting to adapt to that situation, right?
Absolutely. Twitter fingers. And then go into that's always fascinating. Like, Frenchie's, I think one of the first ones that was actually a participant in the BB Twitter streets. And the participant, I'm not just talking about retweets. I'm just talking about like really diving in with the tweets as well. And like I never really saw Frenchie in the BB streets, but a lot of other people did. And so he's kind of one of the first people. So it's really funny to see how that plays into how he plays the actual game of Big Brother. And they don't really match up that well. So hopefully anyone else watching, if you're in the BB Twitter streets, at least come a little bit harder. Well, not harder. Frenchie came too hard, but I'm a little bit smarter.
Yeah, well, speaking of Twitter, Tiffany talked about her Twitter account in the house, and so people finally found it, and yes, full of Big Brother stuff.
I loved it. I scrolling down all the retweets and all like the replies to people's tweets. Like she loved like Janelle. She was tweeting stuff about that. Like I was even going down her like catalog, and you can really tell a person by like the tweets that they like. Like their retweets, they're like, no, that's going to be seen. But like their likes, it's like, oh, I don't think people are going to go this far to like search my likes. But I love Tiffany. Loved it even more seeing how her Twitter kind of reflects a lot of my thoughts. So it was nice to see.
There you go. So Frenchie is after his conversation with Kyland, where Kyland is like, let me think it through, and then maybe I'll talk with a few people, and we'll see. Frenchie is going to go ahead and tell basically half the house that Kyland's on board. He's going to put Brent up on the block. I'm going to take Brittany down. It's going to be great.
And the fact, this is where Kyland kind of confuses me a lot of times when he's up in those conversations. But this is one of the times like, yo, Frenchie, he really didn't give you not a damn thing. And so just for you to extrapolate what you wanted to out of that conversation is very like, come on. But that's what he has done in this entire house, through the duration that he's been here. So wasn't surprised at all. This is what Frenchie does. takes what he wants to out of conversations, and things that are not useful. He's just kind of like, oh, all right, it didn't happen. So that's what we saw.
So Kyland is going to talk with the Kings, and first he talked to Alyssa about her playing in the veto and what he would want her to do and what she's willing to do. She says she's going to go for the veto. She wants to build her resume if possible, but that she's willing to do what Kyland wants, and if he wants her to throw it to him, if she has that ability, then she would. And if she won, that she would only talk to him about what she would do. It's pretty typical stuff here. He also, really the primary thing that I wanted to bring up about this conversation with the Kings is that Kyland says again that he's not going to use any brain power on who the replacement nominee would be if the veto was used until it gets used. And as they're talking, he looks at Xavier and he's just like, man, that face and that voice and those muscles, I can't even look at you. You're so intimidating.
He kind of is. He's like a very strikingly handsome person. And for me, as I think I'm a sex symbol, I think I would, take a pause like Xavier, but I think that was a funny, like, Kyland's mind mumbo jumbo, just like thinking exactly what he sees and saying it out loud and him processing his thoughts as it comes to him right there. So it's just like played into it.
Yeah, and then Xavier took like a little blanket and sort of covered himself.
Like,
I'm sorry.
Oh my goodness! Stop objectifying him.
Yes, so it does seem as though we talked about this yesterday that Kyland definitely seems to be big on Xavier in the game, even though they don't talk a ton of game. Definitely like. Kyland likes Xavier, I think that he admires Xavier, and I think that that's part of why Xavier has that influence.
Yeah, I do too, and I think it's just I'm not an energy person. I'm not a person who's like, oh yeah, his energy seems right. I'm not like that type of person, but I honestly feel like with Xavier and Kyland, I just feel like Xavier brings just like calmness to it, and just like not as like not direct game talk where it just comes off easy for Kyland to like filter his thoughts through, because as we've seen in his conversations with Xavier and as we will see later on with Derek X, his thoughts can come like when Kyland talks to different people, his thoughts can kind of just be like very like, oh, hold on, I don't know what I'm thinking like right now. Just kind of, it can be mumble jumbo in a lot of ways. But with Xavier and in his later conversation with Derek X, I feel like they were processed. He was like very like coherent. He's a coherent person, but just very like direct and things like that. So I just think Xavier brings a much more calming force to Kyland's life in the house. And so I mean, I love it. And this is the thing, I never see Xavier. It's hard for me to know who Xavier's true allies are. I think I can say the Cookout because he's a laissez-faire type of person. And I think he has a loving relationship with Azah, as we will see later on in the feeds that day as well. But it's very hard for me to see like where are his true allies. And so times like this where I see Kyland open up, hopefully it will, turn something in Xavier's heart to be like, okay, wow, I can actually do want to divulge everything to this person. And I think that's the beauty of Xavier's game, but I also, from our viewers watching his live, it can also be kind of frustrating, just for myself as well. But
yeah, Xavier's been playing an interesting game so far, in that he's not going to be very present in today's update, nor is he usually present in most updates, because he's just kind of chilling, but not really in the same way that somebody like Azah is chilling, where we're talking about she's kind of just like been staying in her room a lot, not really socializing as much as she needs to be. Xavier's out there socializing, talking with people. He spends a lot of time with Whitney and a lot of people, and he will talk game like here and there, but not. He doesn't really. He's more of like let's stay level. Let's keep myself in a decent spot. Like this is, I think, this sort of like go to sleep for the first half of the game, but like he's sleeping with one eye open essentially.
Yeah.
Or at least that's that's presuming that he has a second gear to go into
when he has a second eye.
Right. Exactly.
But I was about to ask you because I can see, because a lot of times in the Big Brother players, we see that happening. But with Xavier, it's hard for me to actually see if that will happen. And because, I mean, the only thing that I've gotten, and we're only 2 weeks in the game, which is crazy because I feel like we're already to the end and you know, somebody's about to be already crowned with how much stuff has already happened. But it's hard for me to see that second gear coming in for Xavier. And the only way that I can see him right now, because it's the only thing that he has shown us, is a very like fluid game where he's just kind of like, you know, and I don't see like a concrete lay of the land for how he will continue his game. And it's like, hopefully we get that second gear kicked in. But I'm not too, we're definitely going to get this kicked in. So I'm just kind of like, okay, not X, you don't like Xavier, you know, well, we'll see what happens with them. So I'm optimistic, but I'm not hopeful. Well, I guess optimistic is hopeful. Shit, I don't know where I am, but hopefully, whatever. X, play whatever game you want to play. How about that?
All right. Well, Tiffany's going to talk with Claire a bit. Claire lets Tiffany know about Frenchie's new pitch because he pitched it to her. And the pitch is essentially use me as a shield. Let me go after the jocks for you. Tiffany is basically like, look, Frenchie, he's a shield for everyone, not just us. That's not very useful. And using him to go after the alliance that he hadn't told us about until now, no, I don't think so.
Okay, Taran, I've been having this thought ever since Frenchie started pitching this, and I've oftentimes had this thought when other Big Brother players pitch as well. But something that I wrote something down right here, kind of going back to X that I totally missed when we were talking about him. Frenchie said this to somebody. I don't know who he said this to, but he said this about Xavier. He said Xavier is loyal to the power and not to the people. And I kind of agreed so far. I mean, it's only 2 weeks in, so it's kind of like, how much can you agree? How much have we seen? But I was like, dang, Frenchie, that's kind of like spot on for how I see Xavier playing the game as of now. And that's something I know we can dog Frenchie out, as I do even. But that's like a little bit of something that I was like, that kind of made a logical sense in my mind. But yes, going along with Frenchie and his thing of, if I'm here next week, I'm a target in front of you. Like, and so you will be safe, say we're on the block. But if everyone is thinking that, that's not benefiting anyone, because at that point you have the whole house thinking the exact same thing. And it's kind of a thing of, okay, you're benefiting this person, and me. I kind of want you to solely benefit me. Where's the benefit in that whole thing? And I oftentimes get confused when a lot of Big Brother players take that approach. Because if you're going around the house telling everyone this, then everyone's going to have the same mindset. And then what is the actual benefit of having you in the house? And so this is another check mark on the reason why I love Tiffany Mitchell, and she like got immediately. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one of the questions that I was answering on the Q&A podcast that we did was basically, who is Frenchie's game beneficial for, and like how can you use a player like Frenchie in the game to benefit you? And my answer was essentially like, for somebody like Frenchie, it's very difficult. It can be very easy to use him in the short term. Kind of like what Brent did, right? Because you can manipulate him into doing something, and he'll take all the heat for it as he is, and it's great like that. But in the long term, he can't be beneficial to one person for the entire game, because he is too chaotic. He's too both self-interested and too much of a wild card, and so he will always be good for some people's games in some moments. But then the following week, he might be bad for your game, and he might be good for somebody else's game. And that's not a reliable piece that you want to use in the long term. And so right now, you could look at it for Tiffany like, hey, Frenchie has never said a bad word about Tiffany. Would seemingly, do work with her, for her. Why not use him as a battering ram against the real enemy, which is Brent and Whitney and them? That sounds logical. And right now it is. That would be useful. But what happens next week when somebody else wins HOH and Frenchie offers the same deal to that person, or does something else, or exposes what happened this week? You can't rely on somebody like that. And so going out of your way to try and save him in order to use him in that way, it's not a very feasible option.
Taran, literally, this is why I love you. Did I just say did I just drop the L word with you, Taran? Oh my gosh. But Taran, because I've been trying to
I love you too, Jacob.
Oh my goodness, stop it. But anyways, let's make me blush. But this is what I've been trying to like verbalize, because it's so hard for me to verbalize that, because so I just got a new friend. I'm not a new friend. I just got a friend into BB, and he's like addicted at this point. And I was trying to break down like just like the strategy of Frenchie and him going around pitching the same pitch of like, hey, I'm a target in front of everyone to everyone. And you just put it like perfectly. And so I'm just like, I love it. Yeah.
Oh.
Thank you for that. I'm gonna replay this anytime someone gives that pitch in Big Brother. I mean, sometimes it could, be beneficial for certain people, but with Frenchie, no. And so anytime that someone has that approach, I'm just gonna replay this and have your voice clipped and make it, make sense.
Yeah, just hit the soundboard, play the whole thing.
I know.
Anytime anybody mentions it. So have you got 4 minutes actually?
Have you got 4 minutes for this explanation? Absolutely. But we send like 2-minute voice memos, which I typically don't. But if we're talking about Big Brother, then I'm like, please send me more. So yeah, it'll work.
There we go. So Sarah Beth is going to talk with Kyland, and she's going to give him the heads up that basically, because again, there's a lot of like repeated stuff that's going to be happening throughout the day. And so one of those things is that Big D is going to be campaigning for Frenchie. But not only Big D, but actually Azah is also going to be kind of sticking up for Frenchie, which is unfortunate because again, it's like we wanted to see her doing more, like socializing more, strategizing more. She's doing that, but she's doing it for Frenchie, and it's like, well, that's not what we meant.
That's not the direction we want you to go in. Yeah, come back. Yeah. I would rather you get in your bed and read the Bible again, child. Yeah.
So Sarah Beth's giving Kyland the heads up that like Frenchie's team has not abandoned him. They are still all about keeping Frenchie right now, and I am very concerned for what might happen next week if one of them wins HOH for you. And so obviously she doesn't know about Cookout, and obviously 2 of the remaining 3 players on Frenchie's team are in the Cookout. So I can only imagine that Kyland is feeling like, okay, you're concerned about it. I'm probably not as concerned as you are because I know that I have this extra connection to them. However, I do think that later in the day, he's going to be talking about this, that he is at least a little bit concerned that people like Big D or even Azah could target him, because for as much as the Cookout exists, they don't really talk or hold meetings or like strategize all that much. It's more of like an unspoken thing. And, especially when you're dealing with a player like Big D, it's like, how much does that really hold? But this is something that they're talking about, and he's definitely concerned about Brittany on that team. Obviously, he just put her up as well, so he is a little bit concerned about these jokers.
I mean, I'm not going to say as he should be, but I feel like, again, like you said, with players like Big D, I feel like as he should be. And even in conversations that Big D and Kyland have had since Kyland has been HOH, it's kind of it's not the best conversations. Like Big D is like really fighting for Frenchie to stay, and just like certain words or phrases or sentences that or statements that Big D uses with Kyland, I'm kind of like, I don't think this is benefiting you or Kyland saying this thing to him. And so with a character like Big D, I would definitely be kind of like suspicious moving forward with that alliance. And I think that's oftentimes such a hard thing with alliances that don't have up-to-date meetings or aren't continually speaking, because you have these like senses of doubt, and the Cookout goes off of the basis of what's understood doesn't need to be said. But in the game of Big Brother, what's understood could also be misunderstood and miscommunicated and different. And if you don't talk to someone for a day, it could oftentimes be like, oh, this person is working with this person and I'm kind of like on the back burner. So you oftentimes need continuing, like I'm about to say continuing education, continuing conversations and dialogue for alliances to really flourish. And that's something that I wish the Cookout would understand more. But I think they just have an understanding of, okay, we're not targeting each other, but I don't think it's an understanding of we're protecting each other. Some members do, but some members don't. And so be damned if you do, damned if you don't. But Kyland, you need to have those, the Cookout and whole needs to have those meetings together.
All right. So Big D is going to pitch to Kyland that he wants to keep Frenchie. Now, this is a decent conversation here. Kyland is going to be trying to talk Big D around to the idea that, like, you know, it's kind of a done deal, honestly. And also, there's basically a couple of things going on here. Frenchie is still very much anti the remainder of the slaughterhouse. He's talking about the four-headed snake monster of Brent, Christian, I don't know. Xavier's in there, and then probably Alyssa or whatever. No, he definitely named Whitney because she was mad at that too. Maybe it's a five-headed thing. Who knows? Yeah. It's always changing. And so what he's doing in addition to that is that he's talking to people that he does still have on his side, Brittany, Azah, and Big D, and he's saying, "You guys, you cannot trust that monster over there. You've got to stick with Derek X and with Tiffany and with Kyland." And so he is basically doing some work for the people who are actually taking him out. I know. And this, I think, is helping, especially with Big D, who was very gung-ho about going after Derek X. And in addition to that, plus the conversation with Kyland here, Big D is starting to come around to, at least in his conversation with Kyland, although later in the night, we'll see where he goes from there, that, okay, yes, I agree. I don't want that four-headed snake to run the game. So he is alluding to Kyland that he would go after them. But again, later in the night, we're going to hear a slightly different story. So who knows exactly, once again, where Big D actually is.
Yeah, but I kind of thought that I was on the exact same line as you. Like, Frenchie is helping out the people that are about to send him home, because I just think his anger for Brent and for Whitney is much higher than his annoyance or anguish for Kyland in that situation. So it's like, these people are actually sending you home, and these people kind of just jump ship. And so I would be much more, I don't know which avenue I'll be much more frustrated at, but if I was Frenchie, I'll be throwing everybody, like, hey, target whoever you want, because I'm getting screwed no matter what. So just have a field day with it. And I feel like if you, like, Frenchie just looking, I mean, Frenchie doesn't think logically, so I'm not even gonna put like a logical stance on it. So yeah, let's leave it at that.
Yes. So Kyland is also going to talk with Hannah, and he asks her what she wants this week. She says she wants Frenchie gone, and he basically tells her, again, talking about the cookout without naming the cookout, because she still doesn't actually know the name of the cookout, which is still very weird to me, especially because in some ways Hannah may be the most loyal to the cookout of any of them.
Honestly, I think she is one of the only people that is the loyalist to the cookout, because I just get a flashback to that moment in the kitchen and where Tiffany and Big D were in there, and then Tiffany was like, "We got you. Like, we don't really want you around us like that much, but just like know that we protecting you. We got you." And whatever. And Hannah has just taken that and like ran to the corner store with it and beyond. And so she keeps reiterating to the people of the cookout, saying like, "Hey, I'm loyal to y'all." And I genuinely believe that that's the only people in the house that she's loyal to. And that's kind of like, these people, like, they like you, but they don't have that much of a vested interest in you. And so I just look, but I think Kyland gave her some useful advice about like venturing off to get other people, because again, like, I think the main sense of the cookout was like, we have this core, but we also want to branch out. But even, the follow-up has been like with it. But I think Kyland gave her some beneficial advice in saying like, hey, go out and go get your own like sort of people, and then just have like a little bit of a, what is it when people jump out of planes? Parachutes, yes. Get some, like, I don't even know if that's a good analogy, but just get something to help you out. Yeah, if the people in the cookout don't have your back.
Exactly. And Kyland, at least when he's talking to Hannah, and that's his only connection to Hannah is the cookout. So obviously he's going to be talking with her about that being his priority. But when talking to her, he's talking about that as his priority, basically, and saying that that the goal is to get in with as many people outside of the cookout as they can to spread out and make sure that none of them end up on the block together, and also hide their allegiance as much as possible. He feels like getting through this week without throwing out any red flags that none of the members of the cookout were nominated is going to be a good thing, and that he would like to just make it a little bit further, and then the cookout will have the numbers that they need. Now, again, I don't know if this is genuinely his plan, because he's going to discuss a slightly different plan in a lot more detail with Derek X later. Although he could have just, again, been leaving this out. I'm sure that the reality is that he has multiple plans, which is kind of where you always want to be in a game like this. And so he is leaving himself as many options as possible. And I do like where Kyland is going here. I think that I thought that he was underestimating Brent. I don't think so anymore. We'll talk about that. But I do think he and a few other people still are underestimating Christian. And that's where things might get a little bit tricky, but we'll see. So that's that conversation there with Hannah. And then the feeds are going to go down for the veto.
Yay. I took a nap during this time because I was like, yo, I'm going to be up with Taran. I just got to get any sleep that I can possibly get today. And so during the veto, I took a sleep. I went to sleep, and I was excited because we had some great prospects for Kyland's way to go, how he wanted to go. We had some great prospects. Not prospect. We had some great people playing in the veto. So I was excited about this.
So when the feeds come back from the veto, we have a new veto winner, and that winner is...
Can I say it, or are you going to say it?
Go for it.
Derek X!
Again!
So you said a new veto winner. I was like, well, we could just say the veto winner, Do you think it's too early to call? I personally think it's too early to call him Veto King. I know people were having a field day with it, the Veto King.
Is Sam from BB21 a Veto King?
Absolutely.
The same thing.
Yeah. But I was like, oh wait, he did. Dang, no, he's not a Veto King. But Derek X, I say a Veto Prince at this point, because he's one of the first two, and so he's a Veto. I wouldn't even call Sam a Veto Prince, but yeah, I would say Derek X is a Veto Prince. Yeah, I would say Derek X is a Veto Prince. I was excited for him, and last time he wore that veto necklace 24 hours. So he didn't wear it as long, this time, but I was happy.
It feels very much like the sort of Hira trajectory from Big Brother Canada 8, the short-lived, unfortunately, season, where he was a nominee, early on, and then won as a pawn, essentially, to somebody that people didn't have enough respect for in the game. Won a veto, won another competition. I think it was another veto, and then jumping off of that was able to really find some respect and power in the game, because people were like, okay, this guy is here to play. He can win competitions. He's somebody worth talking to and aligning with. And I think something similar is happening with Derek X right now. This has been a very good week for Derek X. His name has been exonerated from many of the things that he was accused of in the past. He has now won a second veto, which a lot of people are like, he didn't need to win this veto. Maybe he shouldn't have. This is going to put a bigger target on his back, which is definitely valid. But at the same time, I still feel like Derek X is working from behind when it comes to social relationships, knowledge of the game, and just how people see him. Yes, they no longer feel like, oh, he was the cause of all of our problems, but they still do look at him as Derek, is he worth anything to us, right? Is he worth anything other than I've got him in my pocket? And he's still kind of fighting back from that spot. And so I feel like winning this veto is, I think, a good thing for him. It could be bad, especially if he doesn't play it right. People could start looking at him as a target, but he was a target before he won anything. So I think that anything that changes the current status quo, which was that he was a target, is an opportunity to, make it so that he's not a target. And so I kind of like it for him. And we'll see where it goes from here. It's definitely a dangerous route, but that's kind of what I'm loving about this season, because all of the players are playing the dangerous but has lots of rewards at the end route. Very few of them are playing the like, I'm just going to sit here and be safe.
Taran, do you remember we were on a different podcast and we had gotten into a discussion about the word root and route? And so when you just said it, just was like a throwback Thursday because I still haven't really heard anyone call it root before. Besides a Route 44 or whatever.
Route 66.
Route 66. But besides that, it's route. But I've been extremely proud of Derek X because at the beginning of the season, I wasn't that big of a fan of him. Just, he was with Travis. He wasn't really like playing the game. But I feel like when he won that first veto, his footing started to become like very like, okay, very concrete, very like, okay, he can be onto something. And I think that gave him a footing to like into different, relationships. And I think that gave him a comfort level to kind of go into different people and talk to different people and venture off. And so so winning this second veto, I think it kind of just adds to it. It can, we saw him ask Kyland like, hey, do you think me winning 2 vetoes is like painting a target on my back? Kyland was like, no, you're good. And so, but definitely could, ring along in people's heads. But I think as of now, I think he's handling it well. I think the people surrounding him are like loving him, just like filtering ideas and strategies through him very well. So I can definitely see him, doing, making some traction in this game. I like what I see from him.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, Sam from Big Brother 21 on the tail of winning 2 vetoes was eventually included into Grateful, which became undeniable, which like you don't want to think about, but it worked for him. He was then included and respected in the game. Unfortunately for him, he chose the wrong allies and got taken out because of his threat level. But it gave him a foot in the door and a hand to play in the game. And so I think that the same is true here for Derek X. So we're then going to see that Azah and Tiffany are going to talk for a bit. Azah is going to pitch to Tiffany that hey, Frenchie's plan is a good one. We should do this. That he is like we should use him. We should do exactly what he says. That she thinks it's a good plan. She pitches for Frenchie to stay this week. But Tiffany is like, no.
In their conversation, because Tiffany, she was kind of going along with Azah in some aspects. Like, okay, well, you should pitch it to him because I don't want to pitch it to him, but you should pitch it. If you think this is a good idea, you should pitch it to Kyland. And so when I first saw this, because I really don't want Frenchie to say I don't really care for him that much. But from Azah's perspective, she's like really fighting hard, and we haven't really seen Azah really fight for like really anybody and really like put this much effort in. So I was like, don't do this so much, especially when a person from Tiffany's team put Frenchie up as the target. So I didn't think that was the smartest thing, but I think Tiffany handled it in her face pretty well. But I'm glad that we saw her with someone else like saying like, okay, yeah, like they're drinking, as Tiffany puts it, they're drinking Frenchie's Kool-Aid. And I think that was a perfect kind of like thing for it. And so
yeah, and Azah's going to talk with Tiffany and Claire and I think Sarah Beth later.
Sarah Beth, they're all
there, and they're going to talk about going after Brent and Whitney and like all the normal things, and Azah is going to sort of like back away from the Frenchie train here a bit with them, but some damage has been done here. From the sort of what we talked about a couple of days ago, where it's like there's this big new group forming, and Azah should absolutely be part of it, but has been left out of it mostly, I think, just because she hasn't been around. And then now also having been so closely associated with Frenchie, kind of sticking up for him, even for a little bit. She's now been labeled as like she's drinking the Kool-Aid, and people are looking at her in that way. But she is starting to get back on board. And so hopefully she can start to work her way back into something good. She shouldn't be a target of anyone's moving forward. So she should have some time to rebuild from here.
She made one comment in the girls' meeting with Tiffany, Claire, Sarah Beth, and herself, and she kind of went in with the idea of that plan, but then she kind of like rationalized it out, and she said, "Yeah, I don't see Derek X using the veto when a person from his team could potentially go up." And I was like, I didn't even think of that, but I was like, okay, please, like, yes, obviously, but it's other reasons as well. But I was like, okay, now she's kind of like putting a stop to that and just like not fighting for it as hard. And so, but also when the girls left, when Tiffany and then Claire left, I was thinking that Sarah Beth and Azah was going to talk, because I was like, I'm just going to lay here, man. Sarah Beth was like, okay. and then just like left straight after. So Azah was like left alone right after. So I was like, I feel bad, but
yeah,
she needs to put herself out there a little bit more.
All right. Well, there's going to be more talk between Frenchie. Frenchie's really like the only person left. Like Frenchie's going to sort of commiserate with Brittany after losing the veto. But really, the only person left in the game that really wants to hear Frenchie out is Big D, and so he's gonna go back to Big D anytime he gets rejected from anybody else, which is basically every time he talks to somebody else. And Big D is like, we would have been better than Derek and Cody. We would have had it all.
I'm disgusted. I really want to know what happened to my guy Big D. Like I really want to know like what happened to you, baby boy, because the things that you're saying, they just aren't adding up to like a very logical point. And they think Frenchie and himself are like the next coming of Christ, and so I'm just like, what is this? And they're like Derek X. I mean, not Derek X. It's not Derek X. Derek F. Big D has been completely drinking the Kool-Aid. He's swimming in the Kool-Aid. He's like bathing in the Kool-Aid at this point, and it's very disheartening. And it's like, damn it, man. But that's what we're left with at this point. They feed off of each other. They like, once Frenchie says something, Big D is like, oh yeah, Big D says something, like, and then they just continue to circle in conversation. They say the exact same thing, just like, I'm just like, wow, y'all really are getting off on just like y'all's own conversation.
I'm just imagining, because like, think about it. They connected very early, like Derek and Cody. They then created a massive alliance, an 8-person alliance, the Slaughterhouse, the Bomb Squad, that they were both in. Then they were part of the core alliance with the Butchers, the Detonators, and they were on this. They were same. It's Frenchie and Big D.
No, I'm not letting you get away with
Derek
this.
and Cody. What could have been Jacob Jones?
Now I'm not that big of a fan of Derek and Cody. I ain't that big of a fan of them. But I'm not even gonna play with you on this one. I'm not even gonna like attempt to even scoff at your joke with this one because it's horrible. But they really do. They really believe. And even Frenchie, when he was with his whole team, they're called the Jokers, right? Mm-hmm. Such a fitting name. He was like, oh yeah, if we make this work, we're going to be the greatest alliance Big Brother has ever saw, or something like that. I was like, really? So you really think this? You're like, he says things so much that he's convincing himself. I'm glad he's convincing someone, because like, I'm glad that someone's at least going along with him. Big D is the person, so it's like, it's so annoying, but it's like something. Anytime they talk, I want to switch feeds because I'm just like, like I just get so annoyed, but I like still tune into it because I'm like, I'm like, how can you make this make sense even in your mind? It's yes.
All right. Well, let's go from that to something a little easier to tolerate. Kyland is going to talk with Derek X in the HOH room for a long time, and they're talking about various things. Talking about Tiffany, they really like Tiffany, and how she's told Derek to sort of play dumb, and they feel like people underestimate her, and then they start talking more about, like, obviously the veto's not going to be used, and. Derek says, I feel good about the people that we've mentioned as a, potential group, essentially. So Kyland's like, okay, let's assume that there are no teams next week, and let's assume that I can play and I win HOH. So like, I'm HOH next week. There's no teams. Who between Christian and Brent do you think is more likely to try to get you on the block? And Derek is like, can you grab the chessboard so that like we can just visualize this? And so he says, okay, he gives Kyland the rundown that he gave Tiffany the other night. He lays out the Slaughterhouse. This is prior to nominations. This is what I saw. It was, Frenchie and Brent and all of them. Same thing that he told Tiffany. This is what he was hoping to give to Kyland prior to nominations. But he didn't have the time.
I know. I feel so bad for him.
He says, Big D is with them. He's close to Frenchie, but in Derek's eyes, Big D is closest to Xavier. And he says, on the other side of the house, you've got, Tiffany, Claire, you, me, Hannah, SB, Azah, and like these are mostly like individuals. Like we're not in much of a group right now, or at least that was post at that point. Now post nominations, you've got Brittany, who's going to lose her closest ally. She was sort of attached to that slaughterhouse group because she was close to Frenchie, so she'll be alone. And he's like, basically, I'm not sure where. And you know, he's not saying slaughterhouse. They're in fact, when I say names, that's me figuring out who they're talking about. Because they are just referring to this and this when they're talking about the chess pieces. So it is possible also that I get some of these wrong, because you have to sort of like figure out
you're just shorthanding
with a bad angle of like the chessboard, who they're pointing at and stuff. But basically he's like, I'm not sure where these slaughterhouse pieces will go without Frenchie. And so Derek says, I think, Kyland, what you're doing is smart, because it seems like you're positioning yourself in a way where you will have the numbers next week with the people that we're talking about. And he thinks that, of those people, he thinks that Hannah is the closest with them, based on his conversations with her, feeling like they've both been sort of isolated from their team, and that Hannah would be a good person to pull. And so, what you're talking about right now, Tiffany has been talking about kings, queens, plus me, plus Hannah would make 9. And then we would really be like a majority in the house. I think that would be like a pretty solid or a pretty powerful force in the house to have 9 people like that.
Can you remind me who's on the Kings team?
Kings are Xavier, Sarah Beth, Christian and Alyssa.
Okay. Yeah, I liked just this dialogue between Derek X and Kyland. I'm glad Derek X finally got the chance to say it, and Kyland was so receptive, and their conversation was very good. And I felt like Taran was like being like a Taran. I felt like Kyland was like just being so like coherent. I understood everything, and he was like being completely honest and transparent with Derek X. So I just feel like that level of trust is continuing to build with them. But I have this question. I don't know if probably you can answer it. With a 4-person team, 4 people, how and I can see it, but how can 2 people be isolated from a 4-person team? If them 2 are still hanging out together,
right? I think that initially Derek felt like it's Brent and Whitney, and he's not in with them. And Brent has certainly tried very hard to make him feel, ostracized and like you are at the bottom. And then I think recently he's been talking with Hannah, and it turns out she had kind of felt the same way. He's kind of like, oh, well, that's like we'd both been feeling that feeling. And I don't think that she has allegiances elsewhere. I think that she's close with us. I think he's trying to pull her in, which, by the way, I think is a great thing for Derek. If he was able to pull Hannah and bring her into this group, like, this group obviously is proposed by Tiffany. They're all, Kyland's saying this is Tiffany's proposal. He likes it, but it's Tiffany's thing. She is the one that is proposing this, and there's a reason. It's because it benefits Tiffany the most. She is the best person. She is positioned the best within that group of people. Kyland is positioned very well as well, obviously, and he has a lot of power right now, and that's allowing him to get himself into a good position in this group. Normally, Kyland would be the one pitching the group and forming the group, because he's the one that has the power right now, but Tiffany's really been pushing her agenda hard, and it's definitely getting in there. Again, I talked about this yesterday, but Kyland also trying to keep the slaughterhouse together is sort of his own play. So Derek, though, basically is like, I have no choice but to join any group that will take me. And so typically that means you're not going to have a lot of power in that group, and you're not going to be in the best position within that group. He's basically got Tiffany, he's got Kyland to a degree, but what is his relationship with Claire? It's fine. His relationship with Christian and Alyssa obviously has been very strained. He has like a maybe halfway decent relationship with Xavier. He kind of has a relationship with Sarah Beth, but all of those people, it's kind of fresh, and he's still kind of rebuilding those things. And so being able to add one number that is more his than some of the other people would be very good for him in that way. So if it worked out that way, it would be very good. Not sure if it will, though.
I feel like it would, because even going back to the conversation that Tiffany had with the girls in the little oil Oral Reef.
Coral
What
Creek.
is it? What is it called? Little thing
Coral Reef.
Oh, Coral Reef.
Oral
An oral a royal wait, what is it? What is it? A royal wait, what? An oral
A coral reef.
a coral reef. In the coral reef in the coral reef room, Tiffany was like hinting at one, like the oral creep. Well, okay, well, I forgot the name again. Whatever it's called. Whatever it's called. But Tiffany was like hinting at adding. I think I said I have in my notes. I was like Tiffany wanting to bring Hannah into the Jackpot Alliance. That's the alliance with the girls, right? And Azah and Sarah Beth. Because she was like, she's so smart. We can
Jackpot
use her.
is Claire and Sarah Beth.
Okay, what's the group with Azah?
Kingslayer is Azah, Tiffany, Claire, and Brittany, I think.
Oh, and Brittany.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it is. Okay. Well, it was the room where Azah, Sarah Beth, Claire, and Tiffany was like giving Hannah mad props, saying like, "Oh, she's so smart. Like, we can definitely like utilize her." And so I feel like Hannah has her kind of hooks into multiple things, and so if they can just come together and agree with that, I think Hannah is definitely in that line. So I think that really benefits Derek X, and I love it. Not a royal creef, whatever it's called, coral reef. That's coral reef. That's what it is.
Okay, so those were Derek X's thoughts. Here's what Kyland has to say on the chessboard. Kyland says, okay, well, he says, I think there's a chance that somebody else feels similarly to Derek and Hannah when it comes to feeling excluded from their group. And he says that, and I think the person he's referring to here is Azah. He's had conversations with Azah about how she felt like, she wasn't feeling included with Frenchie. And so he says that Derek says the people I'm scared of the most are Brent and Whitney. These two have the potential to blow up anything. Their social ability, everything. Long term, he's really scared of Brent. And Kyland says, well, what is so threatening about this pair? And Kyland has kind of been, in this position. He asked Tiffany, like, is there any scenario where it would work with Brent and Whitney? And now he's like, well, so what is so threatening about this pair? And Derek says, well, she'll always be really loyal to him. This is why it's confusing, because they kept not naming names. He says, okay, what's threatening about this pair? And what he meant was Christian and Alyssa, I believe. And Derek says that she'll always be loyal to him, meaning Alyssa loyal to Christian. This might have also meant Brent and Whitney, but
no.
We'll see. And so Kyland says, or he says, well, but as an individual, though, like not the pair, but this individual. And Derek says he can't trust her to keep information to herself. And so again, this either means Alyssa or Whitney. I was thinking it was Alyssa just based on context. But Kyland says, do you feel like you're the only person that feels that way? And Derek says, you don't really have to be good at reading people to get that impression. So basically, again, Derek is primarily concerned about Brent and Whitney, and he is concerned about Christian and Alyssa being part of what they're going to create, basically. Kyland thinks that the next HOH is going to be the wall. And he says that basically that he hopes his nominations this week will have built trust with that other side of the house. And so he's saying, like, based on what they're telling me, I'm feeling like hopefully, these nominations, this HOH week, will place me somewhere closer to the middle. And, and by extension, his team, that they will protect him and his team. He says, so if somebody from these slaughterhouse people win the HOH and they take a shot, I think that we can get, we can convince them, and there are other people that can help us convince them to take a shot at one of these three, meaning I think the Jokers. And then our group would then have the votes to do what we want that week. And then the following week, we'd be competing against that slaughterhouse group again, but they'd be down one number because that person couldn't compete twice in a row. And then we'd be able to take that shot. And Derek is like, oh my God, you're so smart.
This is brilliant. That was a lot, Taran. You need like a drink of water after that. All that detail. But yeah, I mean, Derek was completely for it. And I want to circle back to your first point that you said this morning. You were like, I feel like people are underestimating Christian. And what do you mean by that? And do you mean it in this correlation with Derek X focusing on Brent and Whitney?
I think I mean it in the sense that Tiffany and Kyland both feel good. And Kyland's, I think, again, it's hard to know for sure, but I'm pretty sure he's going to talk about Christian a little bit later in a very positive way. Like, I think we can trust this guy. And Tiffany still trusts Christian. She's talking to Christian about taking out Brent and trying to pull him in. And so, like, and that trust may be founded. They may end up working well with Christian. But they need to pay attention to, we don't know what the competitions are going to be. And if this guy is going to be good at competitions, that can be very, very dangerous in this game. And if he starts to get on a roll, then things can really go awry there. So I just want them to make sure that they've got their eyes open when it comes to Christian. But he is definitely the piece that could really topple the whole thing if things go a certain way. But we'll see. Is
the Brent and because I watch feeds, but it's hard to tell at certain times because I see them talking and things like that. Is the Brent and Christian rivalry or rival? Well, I can't talk today. Hostility is still a thing. Tension is still a thing between the two.
It definitely exists under the surface. That really the only reason they've ever come together was because of the whole Frenchie thing, and now still the whole Frenchie thing. Frenchie's lumping them in together, attacking them both collectively, and so they're both still kind of like, what, we're a snake, we're a four-headed snake. So they're still kind of like that, but pointedly, Christian has not said anything to Brent about Tiffany saying we got to get rid of this guy. He is not looking out for Brent in any way. Now the slaughterhouse meeting that Kyland wants to have still hasn't happened. The plan is to have one eventually, and to get everyone back together and get the group functional again. And when that happens, who knows what that relationship's going to develop into, right? But that rivalry definitely still exists under the surface. They are not like best buds or anything. I think if they ever work together, it will only ever really be out of necessity, more so than like they get along. There's just too much competitiveness happening there. Maybe if Alyssa left, it might be different, because I really do feel like that's part of it.
So do you think that foursome right there is something that they should be weary of?
Well, that's what Derek X says to Kyland. He says, what I'm concerned about is that these two, Brent and Whitney, and these two, Christian and Alyssa, come together. And that would be worrying. And so, again, Kyland doesn't really have an answer for that. And part of the reason is because Kyland feels like he would be covered in that scenario. And that he's in that position. And he may be covered. Yeah, absolutely. He may not be covered though. And he also knows that too. He knows that he doesn't know that he can fully trust Brent. So he says that, what Brent is saying could be genuine right now. And that would be a nice surprise. But and Derek interrupts. He's like, yeah, well, I mean, he did, after the Veto stuff happened last week, say he would never trust you again. And Kyle's like, I knew it. I knew he would say something like that. But Derek's like, but for what it's worth, now when he talks to me, he's like, oh, I trust this guy. I want to work with this guy. They're like, yeah, these two just blowing the wind.
I know, right? Yeah. Well, so I mean, so everything is mind blowing at Derek X. Like anytime he finds something out, I just love his expression that he shows. Yeah. But so going back to that point though, because I know Derek X bring up the point of the foursome coming together. But do you think that the foursome will come together
if one of them wins?
Okay.
Specifically, if the right one of them wins. If Whitney and Brent win, you'd best believe
Yeah.
that Christian and Alyssa will be sprinting into that HOH room.
HOH room, yeah.
If Christian or Alyssa wins, Christian even more so, I think, than Alyssa, we'll see. I could see Tiffany whispering into his ear, like,
that's what I definitely say. Yeah.
Brent is your biggest threat. You can't be a king unless you take out your rivals.
I definitely see that happening.
That could be fun if it worked.
Yeah.
But if Brent or Whitney won, I do think that would be a thing.
And this is also because and it could go haywire, but I kind of agree with Kyland, like, oh, this could potentially, even if the four do go together, I'm not like really a target at the moment for them to target. And I think this is a really smart play with really nominating just one team, because you don't piss off the rest of the teams, and you can kind of form that relationship with them as Kyland, has, or he thinks he has with them. And so I was thinking about that when this conversation was going on. I was like, no, he only nominated the Jokers, and he's good with Azah. And Frenchie is kind of doing some of his work for him with telling Big D and telling Brittany, hey, like I know Frenchie was making the point to tell Brittany, hey, like you can't go after him even if you stay, like you can't go after him, telling Big D that as well. And so could definitely work.
Yeah. So he says that people will not forget, Kyland says, people will not forget Frenchie's association with Brent and Whitney. Even when the group was bigger last week, you noticed that, who was there for every conversation. Not all of them were all there for every conversation, except for specific people, Brent, Whitney. And people will not forget that. I don't think they have, and I don't think they will. They both agree that Tiffany has helped them see things a lot, and that Kyland says she's the one who put this into my head this week. And Derek is obviously talking about she's taught him a lot in the game. So
Tiffany the teacher, we love to see it.
Yes. Kyland thinks that it's still likely. Kyland says straight up, I think it's likely that these two, Christian and Alyssa, are still likely to nominate Brent and Whitney. And Derek's like, what, really? It's like, I think so. And they're both curious about specifically what Alyssa would do. Again, I think this is the person that they were talking to about earlier. Derek says he doesn't trust her. She's ratted him out on multiple things. And so he's unsure about her. Kyland says, well, let me tell you one thing. The first person to complain to me about this guy, Frenchie, was this guy, Christian. And he's like, oh, like after noms? Like, no, before noms, like before I was even HOH. He's like, wow, really? Like he was talking that early? And he's like, yeah, it wasn't the same kind of complaints. Like over here, the Tiffany crew, they were like, we don't like this. This guy, Christian, was like, I don't know how to feel about this. I don't know about this. So that's part of why Kyland feels like Christian is more on board than anything else. Derek says his goal for the week is to, on a social level, is to get closer with these people, the Kings, which, yes, actually follow through with it, please.
Yes.
And Derek tells Kyland about Frenchie trying so hard to get, he's like, oh yeah, that night that with the veto, he was like in my ear about like, you'll be a legend in this game if you use this veto on Alyssa. And he also jokes about how he had to let Frenchie win a chess game the other day. And Kyland was like, how was that? He's like, it was really difficult, actually. I had to sack my queen to make anything even close to happening.
Oh my goodness, I love the Frenchie humor. I thought Frenchie was going to be on his ass like white on rice like last night, but he kind of like let him breathe to a certain extent. But I mean, besides when he wanted to go around and say his goodbyes to everyone. Taran, that's actually a really cute like if someone could take a picture of that, you can box me out. But that's a very like cute center frame.
He's just talking about my face, by the way.
Basically.
Yeah. So Frenchie is gonna then come and finally get a chance to talk with them. He says, I don't want to talk game. I just want to whatever. The important part is that he's going to admit to Derek, and this is it's exactly what I said yesterday. This guy is the Stephen Glass from that movie Shattered Glass, because he's like, Derek, I want to admit to you that I did mention targeting you last week, after all. And he's like, I knew it. And he's like, yeah. But, just, like in the diary room. And then I was, then afterward, I immediately was like, I had that conversation with you. I was like, Derek X is such a loyal guy. And so I was out there like, why are we going after him? Like, you guys are stupid for wanting Derek X out. He's a loyal guy. That's what I was doing. You're going to see all this on the episode. So, and it's like, you like partially admit your lie, and then you cover that with more lies.
Yes. I wish I knew who the Stephen Glass person was to just make the correlation with. It's
a good movie, honestly. Hayden Christensen. Back when everyone hated him for playing Anakin. This was like
Hayden Christensen,
the guy that played Anakin Skywalker in Star Wars.
I don't watch Star Wars.
Okay, well, you don't watch Stephen Glass. You don't watch Star Wars.
I don't watch Star Trek either.
Well, I didn't need you to watch Star Trek. I wanted you to war, not Trek.
Have you seen Dreamgirls?
Probably.
With Beyonce, Jamie Foxx, and for Hudson.
I don't know. Was that the one where they con people?
No. Taran, what? Taran, if I come to San Diego, we're watching Dreamgirls, okay?
Okay.
Not Star Wars.
I don't think I've seen Dreamgirls.
Okay, you need to.
Yeah. All right. So that was that big talk. Tiffany and Xavier are going to talk for a bit. They talk about Frenchie being too much of a liability. He's got to go. They talk about how Azah and Big D are still drinking the Kool-Aid. And Xavier likes this idea of the kings, queens, and 1X.
Yeah. And I like this conversation between Tiffany and Xavier, because I feel like Xavier was getting off all of his thoughts in that short moment. And I was like, okay, I can finally see where his mind actually is. Hopefully he's telling the truth. He could just be, amping Tiffany's head up. But I think he was being truthful, and even knowing like, oh yeah, Frenchie's full of BS and they are drinking his. And like, I'm glad that I saw Tiffany's authentic thoughts and saying like, oh yeah, they're like drinking Kool-Aid, telling X about the Xavier, about the Azah pitch and all of that. So I definitely love this pairing, and hopefully Xavier's being honest, and I saw like how he was actually thinking. And so
Tiffany and Derek are going to talk for it's a long talk, but my favorite bit of it was she says to him, okay, so I wanted to tell you this. So when I watch Big Brother, I always
Wait, did I freeze? Did I freeze or did Taran freeze? Wait, I'm confused. Taran, I want to hear the story. Wait, am I? Should I freeze too? I'm sorry. Wait. Okay. So guys. Okay. So when Taran comes back, everyone's gonna like be quiet, and when he comes back, we're gonna pop out and surprise him. Okay. So I don't know when he's coming back, but whenever he does, we're gonna. Wait. I'm alone. Wait. No, this is not how this is supposed to work. Taran, get back! Oh my gosh! Oh my god! They gave the keys to the wrong person. Oh my gosh! I don't even know the. I don't even know the story that Taran's about to tell. Oh wait! This is wild. Okay, so I just don't know the story that he was about to tell, but I'm just gonna move past that, and I'm gonna get into the conversation. Okay, so guys, calm down. He should be back. He'll be back. We're just gonna calm down. We're gonna focus. So I'm internally combusting right now. Let me see if anybody texted me. Okay, so guys, I want to talk about. Okay, let's calm down, everyone. Calm down. He's gonna be back. No, you're just left with my beautiful face, right? So I want to talk about the conversation between Frenchie, Big D, and Hannah. So Frenchie and Big D were on the couch, kind of the most of the day yesterday. They're in the living room on the couch, right? And they were kind of like having a moping party, and he was going back and forth with like saying like, "Oh my goodness, I'm leaving." You know, Frenchie was, and whatever. And then Hannah came over, and then he was Hannah's already not feeling Frenchie as it is, and so.
Holding the fort.
Taran, I was holding it down. These are swim trunks, not underwear, by the way. I didn't know I was going to stand up. Oh. These are swim trunks, not underwear. Oh, my gosh.
Swim trunks. Funny. Just wearing swim trunks.
I'm just wearing swim trunks, right?
Yeah.
But Taran, I was holding it down for you.
I appreciate it. And I apologize to the listeners / watchers for the technical difficulties. I still am without a proper computer.
Taran, that was so funny. Were you like laughing when you was gone?
Oh no, I was not laughing.
We were laughing,
desperately trying to get back in.
I held it down for you. You know, I always got you.
I'll watch it back. I know I'll be proud. Yeah.
Okay, you left off by telling a funny story.
Yes. Tiffany and Derek were talking. She says that when she watches Big Brother, she always likes the nerds. And so when she came on the show, she told herself, I told myself, I'm going to find the nerd. I'm going to make friends with them. I'm going to work with the nerd. And then Derek X, I saw you swagger out of that bathroom. I was like, he's no damn nerd.
And he's not. I thought Derek X was a frat daddy. I just love this conversation. I love this conversation. I thought he was a frat daddy, you know, growing up with Travis, but nah. You know what I mean? I'm still laughing about before, but that's funny too.
All right. So we then get to the final sort of stretch of the night here. Whitney has a long conversation with Frenchie, and this just is like a perfect example of Frenchie. First of all, he starts the conversation with like, oh, "Hey, turn away, camera, turn away. This isn't even about game. Turn away." Yeah. He's I'm feeling like a jerk. Outside of the game, I would never compromise myself, but inside the game, it's been hard. I've been talked into things. I've been asked to do things that I would never normally do. And I'm ready to go home because it's bothering me what's been happening to me in this game. And Whitney is like, can you be specific about what exactly that you've done here? And this is great. Like, Whitney has talked about how she has been in bad relationships before. And I feel like this conversation, I was like, I can see her experience in this matter, because like she's very used to somebody who is constantly trying to BS her, and she's just like, not
literally. And like she wasn't about it. And I feel like Frenchie was like trying to like, I mean, he brought out the waterworks. It could be genuine. I just don't think so. And I feel like he wanted her to just like cop to like, oh, you hurt my feelings or you did X, Y, and Z, and she wasn't having it at all. And I love this moment. I'm not the biggest, you know, Whitney fan, but this moment, like Whitney, like she was doing it for me.
Yes. She's like, can you be specific about what you've done? And he was like, well, what have you heard that I've done? And it's such a simple question. Like, what is it that you're apologizing for, essentially? Yeah. And he doesn't even know what he's saying. And so she's like, no, I would love for you to tell me what you did actually. And he says, well, I was told that I was thrown under the bus by 5 people, and that you were one of them. And it's clear that like what he's apologizing for is that he thinks that she screwed him over, right?
Literally.
Like, and so she's like, well, who told you? Big D? He's like, I just, and she keeps drilling down for specifics, and he can't give any because he doesn't have any.
It doesn't have any.
And like, this is what people should have been doing last week when he was like, oh, well, I've heard, little birdies have told me that rumors are being spread by this person. And so like, I feel like this is a big lesson to anybody who's going to play Big Brother. just ask for specifics, not in an interrogation way. Just like, if somebody's like, oh, I heard that Derek X was spreading rumors about Christian, be like, oh, who said that? And then like, if they don't tell you, like, okay, what were the rumors specifically? Right? Like, because he probably wouldn't have even known. So he's just completely lost here when he's asked for specifics. He eventually admits, like, it was a feeling that I had, that you guys were turning on me. And she says, you did all that on a feeling
and not facts. Yeah.
And she says, like, just Frenchie, some of the things you've said have just not lined up. And he's like, okay, well, she's like, you said that the women approached you with an all girls alliance. It's like, yeah, they asked me to help with it. And she said, I'm hearing that you started it, Frenchie.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I helped them start it.
It was just awful. It was awful. But I'm just so glad she has a sane mind where she was not buying it at all. And Frenchie I feel like he was making himself believe it. And she was clocking everything. And for him to not even like, in what sense does it make, oh, we needed help starting an all girls alliance? We needed help by a man to start we needed help by a man to start an all girls alliance. Makes no sense.
I just love that he clearly thinks that this is the way out of this, is that he says, yeah, I helped them with the girls alliance. They came to me, they needed help with their all girls alliance. And so then when it's like, they said you started it. What the help was that they needed help starting it. So I started it for them.
Yeah. It made no sense.
She's like, just Frenchie, like you've been saying that I'm part of this snake, like that you're saying bad things about me. And he's like, no, listen, Whitney, like you will see when you watch this back, you will see that my intentions have always been pure. She's like, by saying bad things about me? He's like, no, I'm not talking about that.
Then what are we talking about, French fry? What are we talking about, Frenchie? If we're not talking about that, Whitney's not here for the conversation, then I'm not talking about that.
Oh man, this is gonna go on and on. There's gonna be some tears. Feel free to watch the whole thing if
Frenchie
you want.
really knows how to play on it too, because even I was watching this scene. I was watching this. It is a scene. I was watching this scene, and Frenchie was talking, and like he was like, "Oh yeah, blah blah," and like, hold on, and like when someone tells you to hold on, and like Whitney didn't even like give a damn. Yeah. She was like, yeah, okay. But I like in this conversation, Whitney had one thing that she wanted to get out of it, and that was that Frenchie tells her team that all these things were not based off of fact, but they were based off of fictions, because they were based off of feelings. Yeah. Because she says she feels like her team has like been doubting her in certain ways in X, Y, and Z. And Frenchie just said, yeah, the only thing that I want from you is that you don't talk bad about me because my kids are watching. And then when he was like, okay, well, I will start that today because the other day I did in the diary room because you pointed at me and you said I'm done. And then at the end of the conversation, Whitney circled back into, but yeah, if you can just be sure to do this for me, then we'll be good. And he was like, okay, yeah, I got you.
Yeah. So this conversation obviously does not go the way Frenchie would like. He had an idea in his head about like how he was going to say, my intentions have always been pure, and I've been asked to do things in this game that I have gone against, and I want to go home now. And he was probably expecting that Frenchie.
Literally.
You poor martyr. I'm so sorry that I have been distant. You are truly my hero, like you think you are. But it did not go that way. Whitney was not having it. And so coincidentally, we are going to see soon after this, Frenchie's going to pull Big D into the bedroom, and he's going to say, so I'm going to ask to leave. I'm gonna self-evict. I'm not gonna. It's because only because I'm worried there's gonna be like a battle back, and I can't take the risk of being in that hotel room for 5 weeks and not see my babies. I can't take the risk that they'll vote me out. I mean, that'll be in a hotel room.
Frenchie, you can't, Frenchie. Just sleep on it, please, Frenchie. Just sleep on it. Sleep on it. Sleep on it. Oh my God, let me get some water. Oh my God. It was all of that.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I don't even need to point this out at this point, but like, obviously, if you're worried about the risk of being stuck in sequester for weeks for a battle back, you can just quit then.
Wait.
I mean, it's obviously not his real reason, but like, it's not even remotely close to a feasible excuse.
Oh my gosh, that's TBH. But I remember Derek F was sitting in that bedroom with Tiffany and Derek X. He went in that room with Frenchie. Oh yeah, I'm gonna do it. Frenchie, no, Frenchie, no, just sleep, please.
You're not going out this way.
You're not going out this way, Frenchie. No, I'm gonna do it. There's no going over a lot. Wait,
we're Derek and Cody.
And then Frenchie was like, "Oh yeah, dang, the live feeds are on, but yeah, I can't do it." What? And then Derek F. Oh my God, I need some water. Oh my God, like I was dying. And then the feeds cut. And then we came back to the HOH room, and anytime you said the word Frenchie, the feeds cut again, and so we know he was causing. He had the executive producers knickers in a bunch going in there. I could just imagine, but yeah, you're not going home this way. Yes, I trust me. I will go in there and help you pack your bags, French. Come on, I'm a mover, baby.
So when they come back up, we're gonna see Brittany campaign to Kyland and Derek. Essentially, please use the veto on me, but it's not gonna happen. She eventually sort of like comes around to, well, I have no intention of retaliating. I understand the move this week. I know why you're doing what you're doing, and I know that it's against Frenchie and not me, and so on and so forth. Good stuff. Kyland is still very worried. Oh, I forgot to mention, Kyland did mention in the chess conversation the person he is worried about the most is Brittany, and that he feels like if Brittany wins, she could put him up. He also says to Derek that he is the people that he's worried about the most are the three jokers remaining, but specifically Brittany. So she's saying this to him. Probably he doesn't believe it. Probably she doesn't mean it. So, but we'll see.
Well, something else that I wanted to bring up, I think it happened out before this situation, was Derek F and Frenchie on the couch. And this is something that like I didn't get it. So when Brent walked over, so this was a moment, Frenchie and Derek F, they were just like, moping and talking about how Frenchie wants to leave X, Y, and Z. And then Hannah came over, and then Brent came over. I don't know if you remember this. And then Brent was like talking to them, and I was so not like pissed off because I really don't care that much for Brent, but I was like, why are you giving them information? And they were basically saying, this is when Derek F was like slouching on the floor. And Brent was like, oh yeah, a girl has to go next week. A girl has to go. And I was like, why are you telling two people that like you already don't trust, that you already know have been throwing your name out there? Why are you giving them more ammo to like go to the HOH or go to Tiffany or go to any girls in the house to like get you up, because you're already on the tip of certain people's tongues, and you're not that far away from not touching the block, or you're not that far away from touching the block, whatever the saying is. And then I didn't get why Derek F was also like, oh yeah, like we just need to vote Brittany off, because then Brent could have went to whoever the hell is to throw him. I was just like, that entire conversation and the entire moment of Derek F and Frenchie in the living room was just like nonsense, debauchery, and funny moments though for sure.
Yes, Brent is going to be on the we need to take out a woman next week train again. It seems to have gotten back around to Big D as well. Big D's going to talk with Christian. They talk about regrouping the slaughterhouse. Big D talks about keeping Frenchie around, but Christian's like, he's been throwing us under the bus. Why would you do that? And then he talks to Brent, and Brent also feels betrayed by Frenchie. But Brent feels like he has Hannah and Derek on his side, Derek X, which means that they still would have 9 with the slaughterhouse. Very optimistic of you, Brent. And they talk about how a woman needs to go, and that they're going to be down now 2 men, and all the women need to do is go, hey, let's do this, and then we're all screwed. We're all screwed from those women.
Exactly like that.
Now, Brent has also talked to Hannah, interestingly, about this theory that that the women's alliance that Frenchie started is still actually a thing. Whether or not it was fake from Frenchie's point of view or from their point of view at the time, that they are still potentially working together. And I don't know if Hannah like fully buys this, but she's going to talk to Derek later, and she tells him that she is thinking like, what if there really is a women's alliance and I'm not in it? You know, she's kind of like she's kind of been lost in that realm a little bit. She says she feels closest to Alyssa of all the women in the house, which I think is a recent development that we talked about a few days ago. But in general, he asked her how she feels about the Kings because he's trying to lead her in that direction. And that's when she says she feels good about Alyssa. He's trying to sort of like prime her for a potential involvement in this Kings Queens Derek Hannah alliance. But it's hard to fault her too much because she's been given such little information in general, and to some degree she's actually correct. There are women's alliances abound that she is not a part of. But she is so out of the loop in terms of people giving her information that it's that even Derek X, who has a lot of information, is having trouble kind of reeling her into the right direction, especially when Brent is trying to work on her a lot.
No, Brent's really putting the sugar on her hard, especially last night. I mean, fair play. Like, I mean, he needs like more allies and more people, and they're on the same team, and so I get it. But wait, does Brent like Hannah?
I mean, does he like her? He's definitely, people have noticed that he like, and this might not be specific to Hannah necessarily, but like he tends to like make like, I would say, at least borderline inappropriate comments toward her in terms of like I guess quote unquote flirting that definitely have made people feel uncomfortable in the past. He mentions again to Big D that he feels like he's got her in his pocket and stuff like that. So does he like her? I don't know if like is the right word.
Yeah. Would you get into a showmance if you play Big Brother?
I don't think so.
Really?
I mean, it probably just depends on what's most advantageous for my game. But no, I wouldn't. I can't even pretend that I would.
That'd be fun. That'd be fun to see you right away. Okay.
All right. Well, that's what we've got for the day, Jay. Anything else you wanted to bring up?
Wait, I did want to, this doesn't have to be with the live feeds, but you and Rob's interview with Travis, it made me really like him a whole lot more. And I think I was never like disliking him or, I had no negative feelings. It was kind of more of a neutral thing. But on the last episode, on Thursday's episode, I was like, oh, he's funny. I mean, when he took off his shirt in his eviction, I was like, why? But y'all's interview, I was like, yo, Travis is dope. And I mean, I would have preferred him to say over Alyssa, but y'all did an amazing job in that interview, and it really made me, make like Travis, dang. And then people saw him on a flight to Hawaii.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
Yeah, he's very fun. I mean, I mentioned it, I think in the post interview thing, but like I just like the way he talks.
Yeah, it's dope.
He's got good words.
Yeah, he really does. He has like very like hashtag statements that could be used as a hashtag.
Yeah,
I like it. I really like it. Yeah, y'all did a phenomenal job, and so I'm excited I'm hopeful for the continuation of this week. I think it's kind of anything can change. This is Big Brother. People's minds can go different ways, and so I'm really looking forward to see how this week ends. I'm hoping that Hannah really finds footing in this game, and that Derek X does bring her into that group, and she just finds footing with the girls even, because I really like Hannah. And I really value her takes on different things. I'm just hoping that she can make that into a specific thing and actually play the game with people. So I'm excited. This has been an incredible season. You have done an amazing job. I love tuning in to seeing your face daily, and I'm a stan.
Well, thank you. I think things to look forward to this week will be the rest of Frenchie just being Frenchie. I don't really expect things to change from this point, but it is only Sunday. And then I think the bigger thing is where these groups are going to go. there's been a lot of talk about the Kings Queens Derek X. Nothing has been solidified. Nothing's coming together. There's been a lot of talk about re-solidifying the slaughterhouse, but it hasn't actually happened yet.
Mm-hmm.
So are these things going to happen, or are they going to remain in this fluid state? I think that if you really want to lock things down, you need to have a meeting. You need to say, this is our team. You need to solidify it. And so that's what I'd be looking out for over the next few days as we wait for Frenchie to...
Also... This is the first season, and I did this like 2 days ago. This is the first season that I am a participant in the stocks.
Ooh.
But then I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
Okay. What did you do this week?
I think I put some money on Claire. I put most of my money on Tiffany. And I put some, I think Tiffany, Claire, and Derek X, I put money on.
It's probably pretty good.
But okay,
so
we can talk about this later. Or I can just like tune into more of y'all's like stock watch things. But I'm just like, I started off with like 200, and I was like, I'm horrible with stocks. I don't gamble. I don't do any of that stuff. So I was like going into it with a fresh eye, bushy tail self. And so I was like, I guess whatever. But I had fun allocating my coins to different people. But I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So I'm just gonna do it to people who I like.
Yes. I did almost forget as well that there's been a clip that's been going around of Brittany interrupting a conversation between Xavier and Azah, where and this is truly like if you enjoy hurting yourself, watch this clip because it's so awkward. Brittany comes in and she's talking about like the like nomination speech she's gonna make, or eviction speech she's gonna make, and she wants to she's like, oh god, I can't even reenact it. It's so painful.
It's so horrible.
She's like doing Zach Rance's like, I have nothing prepared. Violets are red.
Roses are red.
Violets are blue. Violets are blue. And then she does it like a couple of times, and and then Xavier's just like, yeah, we were just in the middle of talking. Oh, do you want me to go?
I can leave. He's like, yeah. Taran, literally,
and then she just kind of like backs away
slowly. Like hopefully they followed up with her about like what just happened. I didn't see them follow up with her about that. Hopefully it's just because that's like even for me. I can't put myself in that position. Like Taran, I would be ready to evict. Like I would be like, oh, I'm not coming out of my bed for like 10 days after that, at least, because she got like the door slammed in her face. She came in all happy, and like Brittany's like it's just like a fun energy, and for that to just like you saw it, it's like I was like, yeah,
she's on the block. And she's talking about her eviction speech, and she's like just trying to make some lightness out of it.
Yeah.
Just let her do her thing for a little bit. Get back to your conversation later.
At least I feel like with that clip though, at least we can get hashtag save Frenchie and Brittany trending like she wanted. At least that's something that America can do for her. After having that, we can at least do that.
We're gonna save Frenchie for her.
Yes. And evict her. That's what we're gonna do.
No, we're gonna introduce a power. It's America's diamond power of Veto.
He's already hopeful that it will come up, and so we're getting it. If Frenchie says it, it will be.
There we go. All right, that's what we have for you guys today. Thank you so much for joining us. Of course, later tonight there will be an episode, Sunday night episode. So tune into my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Taran Armstrong. I'll be watching it live with you guys, and then after that we'll be recapping the episode. So tune in for that as well. And then tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern, I will be live to update you on everything that happens today on the Big Brother 23 live feeds. And then later on Monday, we will have The Slop. And that'll be very fun as well. So tune in for all of the great Big Brother coverage heading your way. You can find me on Twitter as well, at Armstrong Taran. Jacob, where can people find you?
People can find me at JacobJ_Jones on Twitter. I talk about Big Brother. And just come and hit me up. It'll be a fun time. Taran, thanks for I had a blast. This is like a memorable live feed update.
I'm happy I finally got to get you on here, Jacob.
I know. I had wisdom teeth surgery.
Yeah.
I had wisdom teeth, and so I'm like, I had them out like last Saturday. So all 4 of them got yanked out, and so my face was like, but I was like, oh my goodness, I just want to, get on here with you. But I'm glad it finally happened.
And we talked about this, but you feel like you haven't lost any wisdom.
I have not. I feel like I've gained wisdom because it allowed more space to slump in there and make it happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I feel like I'm like as smart. Would you consider yourself smart?
Maybe.
Okay, I'm maybe then. Maybe. Yeah. That's why I am too. I'm maybe smart a little bit, maybe wise. But yeah.
So I think the way to look at it is that I'm smart in some things, and
dumb in others.
Because I think that's true of anyone. I think this saying somebody's smart is very arbitrary, because like everybody's smart in the things that they care about and put energy into, and like they're just not everyone is smart about all things all the time, and so people are smart about different things and not smart about other things.
Look at you being diplomatic. Taran for president, everyone.
Oh boy.
Taran, I love watching these live feed updates. And before everyone, we're about to end, but I was telling Taran, I was like, I don't know how the hell he gets up. Cause yesterday I woke up at 11:46. This morning I had to set an alarm for 9 o'clock to like prim and proper myself. And I was like, Taran, like hats off to you. I'm a Taran stan. I'm not gonna go too far on about it, but yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Jacob, and thank you to the listeners / viewers for joining us here. And I will see all of you guys next time.